Alliance are heading back out onto the main stage here at the International. Some people thought after a disastrous group stage that they wouldn't be entitled to set foot out there, but they came back fighting against Beast Coast in their best of one earlier this week. And now they're finding themselves, they're finding their joy in Dota. And today, they'll be making every single moment matter. These guys are not going to be nervous. They're just going to enjoy killing T1. And of course, please welcome T1, the last team standing from the SEA region. But you can be very, very hopeful and proud of this team if you're watching them. Yesterday on the desk, they were predicted to make the top 4. This team is never going to be seen as an underdog again. They are family and they fight as family and really put up a fight against LGD yesterday. So do not underestimate them. Just because they like to take things slow doesn't mean you should rest easy when you're head-to-head with them on that stage. But will they make it through today, or will they be heading home? We'll soon be seeing as they take to their booth. And there we have it. Alliance safely in their booth. They looked so comfortable there yesterday, and we are going to be talking more about them in a moment. But first of all, we're going to be catching up with a bit of a legend in the Dota 2 scene. It's their captain, S4.
S4 has played with some of the best players and teams in Dota history, but has yet to relive the success of winning it all with Alliance at TI3. 8 years and a few other teams later, S4 has returned to Alliance, an organization now managed in part by some of his former TI3 teammates. Gustav is playing for his old team with new blood, which is one of the things he says made him want to return to competitive Dota after taking a few months off.
This was kind of the first break I've had in forever since I started Dota. I've never really taken a break, so I felt like I was way worse at the game.
How have you changed as a captain over the years?
I know that can sound weird, but sometimes you need to kind of say no to people. And for me, that's something I've tried to improve on, and I feel like I've become a little bit better on it.
I have some questions to ask you that you're probably not going to like. Is that all right?
No.
Dream League Season 15, Western Europe DPC is Alliance.
One of the bigger stories surrounding Alliance this season was their use of PPD as a temporary captain over the course of a month.
Getting more?
Our throne is in trouble. Our throne's in a little bit of trouble.
I can push it.
Yeah, I think that's it, guys. GG. GG.
Specifically during the Animasia qualifiers, where event organizers emailed teams to let them know coaches would be allowed in the room during the games.
When I first contacted him, it was because of a reason, right? We were gonna use him in game. This is a bit controversial. However, this is how I understood it. That I feel like other teams are gonna use this to their advantage, so I better get to it early.
Start kar diya.
If this is gonna happen.
So you brought PPD on as a result of reading that email,
Yes.
not beforehand. Interesting. Okay. And so, what was your reaction to the way that ended up playing out?
I was actually surprised that other teams were not using their coach already. In my mind, everyone was using it, but actually nobody was using it. So then I was like, oh, are we the bad guys now? I guess we're the bad guys. But yeah, in that sense, it looks a bit unfair. And I agree with some of them, but we just did what we thought was best for the current situation.
Despite the controversy, Alliance shifted focus back to their main goal, making it to TI-10. S4 not only knows how it feels to play at an international, but also how it feels to win. Limp and Hanskin, I know, haven't been to a TI before. What sticks out in your mind about what that feels like as a player how are you communicating that with your teammates to prepare them for that feeling?
I'm always gonna say that they need to enjoy the ride, kinda, and don't focus on down the line what's gonna happen. Just focus on now and what you're gonna do next, and enjoy the journey also.
Did you enjoy the journey?
Definitely. I mean, it's a rough journey, but it's not really regret. But I feel like at the end of it, you kind of look back and you're like, I could really like push myself to actually win another TI or 2 more TIs. You know, just be the best that I can be, kind of.
ODPixel, you have been casting S4 in different teams for years now. What is so special about this captain?
I mean, just the fact that, you know, even after all these years, even though still nowadays his play is a little volatile, he can still have those games where the magic returns. You know, it's sort of the same S4 from the past, and he can still just sort of come out with these crazy moves, these initiations, and you know as well that the players around him, they just, I mean, you know, you hear sort of his demeanor. He's a very calm gentleman. He's very good at keeping the players just focused, making sure that no one lets the emotions get to them. You know, this man, as we saw, he's been there. He's been at the top. He's been all the way through tournaments such as TI. And something like that at TI, just compared to any other events, it's just invaluable to have as part of your squad.
Yeah, the fact that he can make all those flashy plays still, not perhaps every single game, but most of them, and at the same time control his teammates, it's something incredible. You would like to have S4 on your team no matter in which team you are, because I remember a couple of years back, I was playing in a league and someone is playing mid, S4 is on offlane, and S4 is telling my mid laner what to do while he's still winning his lane. This guy is seeing the whole map at all times, and that's not something that every single player can do.
Yeah. And the calm demeanor you mentioned, Frankie, that's been, I think, key for keeping this team together, what they went through. You know, they're getting a lot of hate from the community. You know, there are a lot of people who are also on their side for the whole thing, but, you know, that would have completely, like, crippled a lot of teams, so he really helped keep them together.
And it's really interesting as well, it was mentioned in that interview that not all of these members have actually been to a TI before. For me, the most surprising one is Hansken's never been to a TI.
Yeah, so far hasn't been to one. This is the first, and probably some emotions are running pretty damn high here, but he does have seasoned captain, like we mentioned, next to him to cool those emotions off. And also FNG that we haven't mentioned. He was extremely popular for a decent while in the Eastern Europe region because of captaining VP to the same TI. I believe S4 plus FNG, they bring a lot of equanimity to the team at this stage.
Yeah, and they're the only team here without a coach. I think that's kind of the crazy thing, is like they've decided they've got enough strong voice, and when you've got 2, you know, veteran seasoned captains, they feel like they don't need that outside or that, you know, that 6th voice in the team anymore. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And Hansken also has captaincy experience. So you don't have a coach, but you have an extremely respected, knowledgeable captain in S4. And then you have a support duo that also like to control and have input into the tempo of the game, although obviously they know S4 is boss. What can you guys tell me about the support duo of Hansken and FNG? Blizzard.
Well, FNG, he's always been the most classic, old-school position 5 coming from the Eastern Europe region. You won't really be expecting him to be playing some crazy heroes like Pango and Tidehunter and whatnot, but he will bring stability to any single lane. And one thing that I've noticed back in the day while playing against him, this guy has a metronome in his head that just works a little bit faster than anyone else's, and all the moves that he makes them just slightly faster than you. So even if you can predict what he's about to be doing, you can't predict just how fast. And because of that, all of his teams have done movements correctly and a little bit faster than you, at least in my case. But then again, you know.
You got the old man reflexes.
Yeah, I'm a boomer.
Yeah, and I'd say for Hansken, he, to me, is the player on this Alliance team who's improved the most over the last year or two. He was a player I always looked at who was trying to play 4 position, but he looked more like a 5. I never saw him as that like flashy, high-skill support player that could make the plays you need on the 4 position role, but the reason Alliance, have done so on the DPC leagues, even though they didn't do all the majors, was largely because of Hanskin's improved play on so many different heroes.
And before we do start talking about T1, I do also want to ask about Nico Baby. How is his team setting him up for success, Owen?
I mean, it's very clear a lot of the times that they do specifically pick things that are just going to enable Nico Baby, give him that space and allow him to... Well, one of my favourites from him, of course, is his Faces Void. Just sort of play these carry heroes that can just have huge impact in the fights. A lot of the time, I'm pretty sure Nico Baby probably takes the lead in a lot of the team fights on the comms. You sometimes hear snippets of it in the videos that Alliance upload at the progress of the practicing back at their training facility. That he's a very vocal carry, and that's something that you need. And you need him to have that confidence to stay at that level of sort of making those shot calls when he's out here on the main stage. And I believe that Nico Baby's able to do that.
There might be, even when we're looking at these heroes of TI, there might actually be quite a bit of overlap between T1 and Alliance. If you're Alliance, are you going to be trying to get your comfort picks here, or are you going to be trying to surprise and maybe avoid these pairings that we're seeing?
I think for sure a little bit of both. At this stage, you're aiming at your comfort picks, but you will also try to mix things up a little bit and throw T1 off. So usually what we've seen from Alliance so far is that they haven't truly strayed away from their schematics. If there's a puck on that mid lane, they're picking that DK instantly. Yeah. If there's a Mirana or a Monkey King possible for Hanskin, they might snatch it. So nothing really extraordinary when it comes to the drafts. Where I'm really looking at is the gameplay and the execution from Alliance.
Well, why don't we have a look at the figures in terms of heroes for T1, just to see if we do have any comparison in terms of what they're picking. And obviously the Snapfire pick. I feel like this is the favorite hero of every team right now.
Yeah, it's like one of the most played heroes. It's just so stable, kind of fits into any draft. It just gives you a little bit of everything. So probably going to be contested. I think that first hero, Lina, that's been perhaps Limp's best hero, even though it wasn't in Alliance's
for a really long time.
Yeah.
As well, right?
So I think this Lina is going to play a really big part in this series, or it's just going to be banned. So these two teams are either going to be picking in the first phase or having to prepare, an answer for it in the mid lane. Definitely something to look out for.
Interesting. And also the Crystal Maiden pick, I feel like that tells us a lot about the way that T1 likes to run their supports. It seems like they're very into their backline. They're not really up to kind of getting up close into their AoEs, their stuns.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Your Crystal Maidens, your Weavers, they've been playing a lot of these heroes that like to be on the outskirts, the Disruptor, the Lion as well. So they tend to play the game that way, in which Whitemon and Zephyr are not necessarily the first one running in, and that's enabled because of the Doom pick, perhaps, that we've just seen. Not many teams have these mid laners that are just bulky and just want to be frontlining constantly every single fight. I believe Carl is the one that enables supports to be on the outskirts of team fights.
Now, if you are in Team T1 and you're looking back at those matches against LGD yesterday, what are the key takeaways? What are the things you're hoping to kind of focus on so that you can guarantee yourself a spot in the next stage of TI, Gods?
I think where T1 look good is when they have that kind of meta carry, they play really well around the Medusa, for example, and these supports that can really have a high impact on the lanes. I think T1 look their best when they're coming out the laning stage and are able to make a lot of plays around the map, particularly around Carl. You mentioned the Doom, where he's really good. These heroes that can kind of come online and hit this kind of early to mid game timings and then put their opponents on the back foot.
How does that compare to the pace that Alliance likes to set?
I mean, I think, Alliance, they'll be happy to sort of match the action that the T1's going to be bringing them. This game sort of just making sure that Nico Baby's out of harm's way, getting Limp on these mids that's more than happy to sort of stand tall in the mid lane if any fights get brought his way, or quick to react to any sort of side lane plays. And I think, Alliance, they're really going to have to fully focus on making sure that they don't let T1 get ahead of them early. Because in this sort of matchup, if Alliance gets behind coming out the laning stage, I think against T1, this team's just so hard to come back against after a lost early game.
Yeah, you think that puts some pressure on Alliance, perhaps? Just crush them in the laning stage no matter what? Is that the mindset that you think they're going in?
I think so, but I think Alliance, they are a team that can deal with that sort of pressure. I don't think they're going to be necessarily feeling that. I think they're going to be coming in confident, very cool-headed. Sort of my concern for Alliance is that T1, on the other hand, I just see sort of T1, this TI, they seem to have the same sort of energy to me that you saw sort of when OG won their first TI. You know, they're coming out, they're laughing, they're smiling, and they're playing just some of the best Dota that they've been able to bring out. Sure, they got knocked down here to the lower bracket, but taking a game off LGD, like, this team is really, really good. I hope we get a close series, but I would not be surprised if we do just see T1 roll over Alliance here.
It's so true. I saw T1 at breakfast, and you know, I said hi, and they were chatting. I was sitting at a table. They were singing and laughing, and like they were so careful.
I just love this because I've been following these guys for 2 seasons in the DPC, right? And Whitemon is the one that puts the key in ignition and just lights things up. He's the one always smiling. He's just having a blast every single time, no matter what. Every single game that we watched or interviewed him, he's just a pleasure to be around, and it's very reminiscent of Jerax in OG.
Sounds like music to my ears, Lizard. Now let's talk about S4 versus Cuckoo. We've got our off-lane captains. What is the difference between these two, if we were to put them head-to-head?
I would say... Oh, no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No,
You're so kind to each other. I'm just going to go to Lizard in a second. Gods, you go because you're in the middle.
I would say Cuckoo's a bit more stable with his play, but at the same time, they both can have very hot and cold games. I think Cuckoo's got a better ability to like take over games with a good start. S4 a bit more stable. You kind of know what you're getting. Playing more of kind of maybe the more team fight centric heroes, whereas Cuckoo sometimes will go off a different direction, play some kind of Bat Rider, something more farm heavy. So they do have a fairly different hero pool at times.
All right. So, predictions then. It seems like you're all going the way of T1.
A little bit, I believe, right? Are you guys
a little
the
bit?
same?
Yeah. I don't think it's like going to be super. I think Alliance being underestimated by a lot of people, but T1, they took a game off PSG LGD. That's something very few people have done here at TI, so I have to favor T1 based.
And they also made it feel competitive throughout all 3 games. It's not like they just took one off and that's it. The whole series looked nice.
If you're Alliance right now, and you're looking at what T1 were playing yesterday against LGD, what are you trying to do in terms of the build you're going to be doing and the things you're going to be drafting overall? Obviously, we're going to try draft panels soon, but what is the overall thing that you're trying to achieve?
I think the best way to go about it would maybe try and copy everything that PSG LGD has done, because it obviously works for them. Trying to just negate T1, their strengths, is also nice. Maybe getting rid of that Doom in the early stages. Picking and dissecting the way they move across the map and the way they protect 23 Savage could prove to be really good for Alliance, because the way T1 likes to play is they're all about protecting 23 and his farm. That's something that they've adopted ever since they got him into the squad, which was well at the end of the first season of the DPC.
I'm also kind of curious about the attitude of Alliance, because S4 in his interview after their win against Beast Coast the other day, he was saying that basically they learned a lot from groups and they came really well prepared, and basically the key to their win was the fact that they decided to have some fun and not have nerves. It almost seems like a T1 approach. Is that going to be enough though? Both teams having fun?
I don't think it's ever enough by itself. You need the kind of skill and strategy to back it up, but when you're at TI, the playing field is so even that being in the right mindset, having that kind of mental edge can play such a big part in any game. And I disagree a bit with Lizard. Like you mentioned, like, you know, play more like PSG. I think Alliance, the best thing they can do is just play Alliance Dota.
Okay.
Like, I don't think they want to go away from their comfort picks, their play style. They don't look at what other teams did to beat T1. They have to play their game or things will quickly fall apart when you're at TI if you're trying to change your play style overnight.
In the past, Limp has been criticised and seen as great for laning, but not much beyond the game in the mid. Is that true? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of these mids that sometimes in the matchup, he'll just look unbeatable. Like, he turns up and he'll completely dominate the enemy mid. And he normally he can turn that into like sort of this fantastic momentum. But I think there's just been a few games where Limp can get a little bit ahead of himself. Like, he'll have that fantastic start, but then suddenly, just a bit of an overextension or a dive a little too far, and it ends up costing the team a lot. And these sort of mistakes you're not going to get away with when you're playing against a team like T1, who will immediately capitalize on them. So it's just, again, for me, for Alliance, it's just that volatility sort of across the board. Like, they can really hit it right, but when they don't, it's just it falls apart very, very quickly. So they've got to make sure that they don't have those sort of early errors.
Yeah, if you take some concise comparison between Limp on a Lina and Limp, let's say, on a DK. On his Lina that we mentioned earlier, he can completely crush the lane. But if you're out of position 1 of 2 team fights, your whole game falls apart. However, when you're playing that Dragonite and you slowly win the lane, then your whole team converges around you and you're the focal point of your team fight, then Alliance looks a lot stronger, and so does Limp.
And what do we mean by the phrase beautiful Dota? Because I've also heard Alliance being described as a team that gives good, beautiful Dota. Gods, what does that mean? Because my games are never beautiful.
For me, when I hear it, it's like you, as a viewer, as a commentator, you're watching, and every move makes sense. Like there's a clear purpose that you just see, like the rotations when they're, like, for example, collapsing around certain objectives, like the power runes. They're setting traps. They're making smokes at the right times. You know, being in the right place to contest a Roshan. So to me, I always look at the movement of heroes around the map, and when they're, you know, playing alone, when they're, you know, syncing up together, and that's something that Alliance on their best days do really well, but a lot of the time it can also look a bit more disjointed.
Now, I wish we could pull up some highlights from yesterday's match between LGD and T1, because I do think it still bears talking about, especially the second game in that 3-game series, where we saw a 10-man buyback fight, and all the couriers also coming back online as well. I feel like that might be one of the most memorable moments of TI, of the main stage so far.
I don't think I've ever seen that, ever.
No, never.
Not even at TI, like any tournament.
Any tournament, any single TI, not even
any pub games. Yeah, just any Dota games, full stop. Yeah.
That was incredible. Yeah. And it was so enjoyable to watch that game and just be a part of it. T1 versus PSG LGD definitely did put a mark on the whole main event.
Do you think that the reason that T1 couldn't pull it back in that last game was just kind of LGD just saying, okay, right, we need to take things up a notch? Do you think it was down to that Ursa? What do you think was the thing that really knocked T1 out the running?
LGD definitely did step it up a little bit at the end, but at the same time, they did allow T1 to have all of the good stuff in the second game, and they struggled against it. However, once you negate a couple of those heroes, which I assume Alliance will do in their first draft over here as well, then it does become a little bit easier.
And I think the scary thing with LGD is they're not just like a momentum team. When they lose a game, they learn a lot and adapt quickly. I think there are some teams, you know, one of the big examples always EG, once their drafts maybe get figured out, they can't adapt as fast. But for LGD, with Zhao Wei, it just feels like they lose a game and they come back twice as strong the game afterwards, typically.
Apparently, we're having a few technical issues on stage right now. They're just fixing some audio issues. So apologies for the delay. We are going to try and get you into the match as soon as possible. Don't panic. But I want to talk about also T1's T1 drafts. That's how Game 2's draft was described with the Medusa and Doom combo. What makes a T1 draft, and why does it work so well with their playstyle?
It's usually kind of greedy, like you mentioned. Like the Doom made it feels like it's a bit more on the greedy side, but they have these support, like these backlining supports that can be very active, dish out a lot of damage, and take advantage of the fact that like all 3 cores on T1 get kind of farmed. I feel like that's what I would say about them.
Yeah, 100%. Cuckoo is perhaps sometimes a little bit more sacrificial. He can be greedy if he gets that Doom or Bat like we talked about before, but if there is a Doom on mid lane and Medusa on the safe lane, he will play that full playmaker role with Zephyr and Whitemon and create as much space as possible. But I think when you give them heroes that they've played 1,000 times each, Karl, every single game in the DPC season, Doom was either banned from him or he picked it. So when you have such full comfort zone, it doesn't matter what the matchup is. It doesn't matter how greedy you are, because you will find a way to play it, to make it work in the game.
Is T1 just going to outright ban Doom? Is that what you're expecting, Owen?
Alliance, I think.
Alliance, yeah. I'm so sorry.
That's right. I think Alliance, I think they will. I mean, as you say, it's kind of funny that we sort of get to this international level and you see some teams not really following the same sort of strats that teams were doing against them in the regional sort of level. You know, it's sort of as if they're looking in elsewhere. And I think, you know, you have to look back to, as you say, what people were doing back in the DPC, because it's looking a little too good. I think for me, the Lina is still prioritized higher. The games that he's had on that in the mid lane, he's almost as if it's a straight up second carry. It's just like this insurance. Sure, 23 Savage is also having an incredible game, but you've got these two heroes that are just dishing out ridiculous amounts of damage in the team fight, just at an unbearable level. So I think if Alliance let the Lina get through, they're going to have a really tough time.
And what's up with all the coaches exiting the booth and then being like, yeah, this draft is easy. We let them have their best heroes. So far, every single draft, after the draft, the post interview with the coach, he would be like, yeah, we knew what they're going to pick, but we let them. You know, we prepared for it. And I'm not sure if that's the right approach. And look at those smiles. That's Whitemon right there, taking the punches in the middle. Like, he's like, the mood is just so relaxed.
This is what's going to happen if we lose. No, this is...
I mean, maybe some play-by-play. It's over. The fight's over. No one won. KO to nobody. What a shame. I was hoping for some high-quality FGC casting on the desk there.
Yeah, Owen, if you want
to... it's going.
Oh, here we go. Are we playing hand slaps here?
He's going to get... Oh. Oh, we
are.
Here we go.
Here we go, Owen. Okay.
I don't even know how this game's played. What do you do? Just slap each other?
So Kuku seems to be going first. He's on the offense first.
No, he's not very good at this.
Warning his opponent.
You have to dodge the slap by doing the
I
up
think
and down.
I think he's teaching him how to play. Yeah. Oh, he doesn't want to play now.
Don't want to hurt your teammates' hands before it
probably not the best idea, slapping the hell out of your hands before a TI game. I think they've been talked out of it.
Well,
maybe they're just short on hand warmers, you know, they're getting innovative.
Yeah, there it is.
Get those hands warm.
Sadly, Kuku is not going to be slapping his teammates' hands, but he did have a chat with Casey, I believe. So we're going to see what he had to say right now.
The season for T1 may have ended on a high note, but it certainly didn't start out that way. The team was looking forward to finally attending a LAN event with the Singapore major in March. But their captain, Kuku, was suddenly unable to go. T1, playing with a stand-in, failed to even make the main event. Like many other teams, the transition to in-person events proved challenging. But for Kuku, he says it's where he really thrives.
I did not play LAN for 1 year, and as a player, I really like to compete at LAN because the feeling is kind of unexplainable. Unlike the online, it's like you can like just chill, watch some anime while playing tournament, something like that. But on LAN, you can feel that you cannot slack off or play like lazy.
How have you had to change your leadership style as a captain with everything being so different?
I think our coach helping me to improve as a captain. And at first, he's the one drafting for us. When the drafting also come back to me, I feel that I kind of step up a bit to perform well and to draft well for my team.
And when did you step back in to draft for your team?
DPC Season 2, the opening game. It's like my captain told me, "Hey, Ku, do you want to draft?" Something like that. I know my draft is good, better than March. No, just kidding. No, just kidding.
With Kuku drafting, T1 went on to finish first in Season 2 in their region, giving them a direct invite to the ANA Major. And to earn enough points for a spot at TI-10, all they had to do was win one match.
Me and March keep talking to the boys that don't think about the TI and the result. Just keep thinking about the game. Don't focus so much like on TI. If we go to TI, you can think about the TI, right? But if we fail on ANA Major, there's no direct invite for Southeast Asia.
Well, they won that match and kept on winning with a solid run that took them to the lower bracket finals, ending with a loss to EG that was so close it hurt. Still, after everything T1 went through this season, Kuku had led his team to a spot at TI. Let's pretend you're in the grand finals of TI-10. Who do you want to play?
I want EG.
Why?
Because I want to see like so many Southeast Asian player on the grand finals. If EG and us is like on grand finals, we can put like 7 Southeast Asian players on one grand finals, and I think it's kind of good for our region. This is my 5th TI, I think, and most of my TI memories is like after upper bracket, we lose, then lose again. So if I'm gonna go back, I really want to raise the ages as a player, as a captain. My goal for TI is like keep grinding and do my best.
Wow, you can see in their plays, especially obviously from yesterday's match against LGD, that truly T1 have been grinding. But is it going to be enough to get them through this lower bracket run? And are we going to see them play against Evil Geniuses? You want to see that, Lizard, surely?
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Can't happen in the finals, unfortunately, but it could still happen down bottom because they're both in lower bracket now.
So did I just say that I would like them to lose? Actually, they can continue here. It's the lower bracket.
Yeah,
sorry, they how many games do they have to win? Is it this one?
Probably next round they would meet.
Yeah.
Both teams win. Yeah.
I wonder if we can actually bring up the lower bracket, if that's possible, and then we can actually have a look at it and we can see how that would happen if it can happen in the lower bracket, because it would be kind of cool to see basically who's there. Thank you so much, production. You are the best. So we've got Team Spirit versus OG. And then...
So it would actually be the next round instantly.
Yes, yeah. so because their round 2 happened yesterday. So T1 versus Alliance, VG versus EG. So in other words, we could actually see that matchup in the next round.
We could see 7 SCA players play the game from EG versus T1. It would be hype. I would be really happy for the whole region as well, because it's so talented. Talking to any players, you know for a fact that their pubs are probably the most skilled, but also the most chaotic.
And they take a lot of pride. I mean, we saw it there several times when Cuckoo was talking about qualifying for TI. He's like, he knew if they didn't do well enough for the Ani-Major, you know, SCA may get one less slot at TI. So, you know, he wanted to do well and represent his region. Even looking at the SCA region, you have 2 players on T1 who are the first Indonesian players to play at TI. So it's a big deal for Indonesia, the country, for the whole SCA region, that they're kind of like the last hope for SCA to do well here at TI.
And it is a shame that we lost Fnatic in that match against Team Spirit yesterday. But at the same time, I mean, they made a player change just before their qualifier, and they still managed to make it through the best of ones here in the lower bracket as well, and make it through to a best of 3 on the main stage. So it seems like the future's looking bright for this region, Owen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll go straight up and say my bracket predictions. I have T1 winning this whole tournament. Because I was just been so impressed with the improvement of them over the year, over the season. They came, what, 3rd at the last major? They just took a game off LGD. That sort of sold me enough. I think at the least we're going to see them get to the grand finals, and I think they can absolutely do it. This would be the year for Cuckoo to finally step up to the end here with an SEA squad.
That is, it's quite the endorsement from Mr. OD Pixel. Are they using your voice line in game?
And they should, shouldn't they? You know, yeah. Go T1, Cuckoo. You better buy my voice line.
This is why I'm excited to interview the players.
I've said
later.
you know, I've shouted him out in cast enough. You know, it's time for him to shout me back. I feel like every single game that I cast T1, it's always like Cuckoo this, Cuckoo that, Cuckoo. He's just making so many plays and making all the moves. He's always getting us excited.
And they're letting me loose on the players later. So if you guys have got any requests, if you want me to talk to the players and just be like, hey, I've got these friends on the desk. They've got these cracking voice lines. I can just pitch them to you. They're going to be so annoying to your enemies. They're going to win you TI OG stuff. Who's in?
Sign me up. Yep.
Amazing. All right, well, while we wait, I believe a PC has just been swapped out. We're going to have a little bit of fun here at TI because we have got a rapid fire session with Team Alliance.
Welcome back. More rapid fire questions coming your way. I'm joined by Nigo Baby. I'm here with FNG of Alliance. Welcome, my friend. Yes! Who is, in your opinion, the worst teammate in interviews?
That's a rough one. We're all pretty bad at this. So, it's hard to say.
What was the last thing you ate?
Fuck. The memory's so bad, you know?
You don't remember what you ate? FNG, what was the last thing you ate?
Bulba. Sorry, not the player. I mean, Bulba is a Belarus word for potato.
Potato?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the player. I'm sorry, Bulba.
Potato.
I'm sorry, Bulba.
Everyone's going to keep that one going now. Can you tell us there, Limp, what about the last movie you watched?
Actually, we watched Dune together.
I wasn't really into the story so much, but 6 out of 10.
Oh, you're going to make a lot of Dune fans unhappy with that.
Wasn't my type that much.
And you know a lot of people are waiting to watch that movie, and you're one of the blessed people
I
to
felt
watch
like they released it very early in Ukraine for some reason, but I'm not sure why.
Can you tell me the last person you called on the phone using your voice?
My brother. I mean, he was like, can you prepare better? I'm like, we're doing the best we can. He's like, did you prepare my strat offlane Medusa? I'm like, you don't understand Dota. No, I watch a lot of Dota. I mean, like, you know, typical browser who's like, he knows what you're doing, but he doesn't understand it at all.
What a family affair for Alliance there. And if you want to catch up with Dakota and the gang, he's involved in The Late Show with Mr. Piri and Flax. So check that out tonight. But also, I want to see movie reviews with Alliance. I mean, they were quite harsh on poor Jude.
They were really harsh. Did you watch it, guys?
No, I haven't seen it, but I'm excited to see it.
as well. Yeah, I was waiting to go watch. I'm also in Ukraine, just like Alliance was, but I didn't go before TI. Now they kind of ruined it for me a little bit.
Whose fault is that? Yeah. Now you've got the spoiler, the storyline. It's a 6 out of 10 apparently.
Here I was hoping Alliance would do well, and now they're going off Flaming June. They're dead to me.
Okay, so now you're saying T1. Who do you have winning your bracket again?
I had Secret EG in the finals.
Okay, it's a classic.
Yeah, it's a bit hopeful.
A bit hopeful. I mean, is it classic matchup? Is it a, you know, is it an uninspiring? Not uninspiring. It wouldn't be an uninspiring matchup at all. It's just something that I think a lot of people would expect is all. Sorry, that sounded terrible.
Yeah, I think at this point it'd be a bit of a surprise. I mean, EG have to make such a long lower bracket run, and then for Secret, I mean, they took out OG, but it's still a tough road for them through LGD as well. So
yeah, the word I was looking for was obvious. I'm so sorry, Fox.
Oh, you're good.
Lizard, while I try and gather myself and remember that I'm meant to be a professional, what about you?
No, I wasn't any different. I was just as bland as Parker when it comes to my predictions. Yeah, it was, what, PSG, LGD, and OG, something like that. So
yep.
Very similar, very similar. No T1s
I feel
in
like
the
mine's
finals.
a bit spicier than an LGD OG, you know?
Actually, it is. Actually, it is. I give you that.
That's true, but you don't want to upset the OG fan base.
For sure.
Hashtag DreamOG. I'm right there with you. I've been practicing my no-tail hair flips. I think they're going to be the first team in esports who are going to be sponsored by hair products soon.
Oh, those hair flicks are amazing. The moment they uploaded a picture of no-tail, I tweeted that this hair already won TI. I don't care whatever else happens. When it comes to pictures, when it comes to hairstyle, they have not only no-tail but Thompson as well, right? With long blonde hair.
Their coach?
Their coach, they've changed over this 2 years. And I would say for the better when it comes to when it comes to hairstyles.
Well, you know what I've been very, very impressed by? Is the suits that you guys have been rocking. I would like to wear a suit as well. It's just that they don't fit me. Right now, they really do not fit me for kind of obvious reasons you probably can't see because of this laptop. It's hiding something. I'm clearly not trying to because that would be impossible. But you know what? Over on the draft panel, we've got quite the spectacular look. And I would really like to show it off right now. Again, two of our panelists getting the wine memo. We've got basically Zim Fandel from Weatherspoons, and then we've got Pinot Grigio Blush in the middle, and then we have the sommelier, Fogged.
Sure.
How are you guys doing over on the draft panel?
Yeah, it's good. You know, I've never done a draft panel without a draft, so it's a very unique experience. Welcome to the draft panel.
Welcome. Who has the best suits, you or Iceman?
Iceman? Who's Iceman? Is that Tsunami?
Iceman.
Is that what we call Tsunami?
You or Bruno? You or our friend Bruno?
No, I think it's Tsunami. I think that's the right answer. I'm sorry.
Tsunami.
I modeled. Okay. I went to my tailor and I showed him a bunch of pictures of Tsunami. I'm like, can you make me look like him? And he's like, well, I'll try.
He's like, the beard is on you. You've
yeah,
got
exactly.
to do the beard yourself.
And the face as well, you know, and the voice. But besides that, I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. And it's your first TI as well. Sorry, I didn't
he
mean to
definitely
interrupt,
has the color variety coming down, right? Like Tsunami tends to have, like, he's got these purples, these greens. Everybody else sticks to the normal colors. And then we got the pink, so yeah, sticking to it.
Something incredible has been happening, which is we've been matching without even realizing.
Not me.
It's just Dota 2. It brings you together.
Yeah.
Team Merlot versus Team Pink, basically. It's like we've already set up our teams, and I'm so sorry to Team Merlot that I'm on your team by accident. Maybe I can be in the coaching role and just do the shoulder massages. I can do a march, coach march, and this is my technique. What do you think?
Oh, it's terrifying.
That's scary.
That's the only thing I'm... Well, I thought I was about to say that's the only thing I'm good at. It turns out I'm not good at that either. I'm going to ask about your brackets as well. I'm going to ask you to kind of predict the winner of TI right now, because why not? We've got time.
PSG, LGD.
I was going to say Vici originally, but I'm leaning towards LGD now. Yeah.
I had LGD IG finals.
Okay.
LGD winning.
Yeah, me too, actually.
So definitely it's going to be China's year, you're thinking. Okay. Any particular reason why? This is a really stupid question. They're two of the best teams in the world right now. But you know what? Answer it anyway. Why?
Just dominance throughout group stage, dominance throughout the year. Comfortable players, powerhouse players, and I think there's a lot of clutch factors that comes into once you get to the grand finals of these like powerhouse mid players in particular. And I think LGD and IG literally have like my two favorite mid players at the moment. So.
You don't think that Arme is going to be haunted by TI's past?
No.
I hope not.
I don't think so personally, because he's just been playing out of his mind. He's been grinding pubs every day. I initially had LGD IG finals as well, but I think we might see LGD VP in the grand finals.
Oh.
VP? Is that because of their performance yesterday?
Yeah, because typically they do choke on main stage, but they didn't this time around. And I think they've got a lot of potential that might actually just surprise everybody.
I was a fly on the wall in the interview between Slacks and DM. I thought I would shadow him and get some tips, and I have to say, he is so confident. One, incredible English, natural interviewee. I was quite jealous of Slacks, actually. But also, yeah, they're just taking it completely in their stride. And I suppose you've just had a win. Of course you're going to come into the interview room. Of course you're going to be feeling confident. But it does seem like there is something about these young players who've grown up watching TI where, of course, they care, but also they have this phenomenal self-belief, and I kind of want to read their self-help manuals. Listen.
Yeah, I think it's actually very specific to VP. They consider themselves like this new generation, and they approach TI like, step aside, boomers. We don't need any of your advices. We're going there with our own strategy, with our own belief in ourselves, and we will take it. There's quite a lot of optimism surrounding them at the moment.
You feel optimistic?
I feel optimistic.
What about you guys? Obviously, I think you do.
They went for the strat where they pretend to reveal all their strats in an interview, and they're like, we got you. We were actually saving a bunch of them behind, you know, because DM was very talkative in that interview. I was very surprised. Usually players don't say as much. So I'm hoping that's what they're going for. It's the mind games, right? Right, Lizard?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's it.
We got to cover them a lot in DPC, and sometimes, you know, maybe a little bit of overconfidence was a bit of their downfall. So that's one thing where I always have to be like, you know, VP, you can have that confidence, but rein it in a little bit. You have to give some respect to your opponents. They're here for a reason too. So, you know, I think they are a super dominant team, but like in DPC, they had some games where they literally would give the opposing team their best heroes, and then we'd be like, why'd you do this? And it'd be like, because we wanted to challenge ourselves. So sometimes I think you got to be a little bit careful with that.
Some things linger on from the old VP. The old VP, like, historically did like A to Z challenge, trying to pick every single hero in a turn. Yeah. They never picked the same hero twice in the same tournament. So some of that, you know, bravado still remains.
And that same bravado and optimism can come to haunt you a little bit, because as Evo said, during that same interview, he was pretty much revealing what their most comfortable strategy is. He said, oh yeah, this is our most comfortable draft, and we were happy to play it, and we won with it. Well, guess what? Now everyone knows what's your most comfortable draft. It might be a little bit of a problem, but if you adapt to it, I think you can make it work.
Surely you can also see that, though, by watching the games.
It's hard to tell the mental state of the players during the game, so having that information it's like the confirmation, as Lizard says. So.
Yeah. Lizard. Lizard and Evo.
Evo.
I like that
Our
duo.
two favorites. No, I think with younger players and less experienced ones, anxiety does play a huge role in how they perform at TI, and we saw that with Beast Coast, who a lot of us had really high expectations for. And I remember an interview that we did with DM at ESL One Fall, and he said that they've been changing the way that they approach life recently. They brought someone new into their team, and he's just been adding routine and discipline and structure to their schedule and actually making them like go outside and things like that, and it's been really good for them. But the thing about VP is when they start to lose, they kind of fall apart, and we really haven't seen them yet. Because I remember they were willing to do interviews at ESL One Fall up until they lost one game, and then they just didn't want to talk to us that day. So there really could just be some psychological block that they have going on.
They also represent the whole region, right? And when
welcome back
you're
to more
representing
rapid-fire question, Ash.
Eastern Europe, do you have a lot of pressure on you?
There's team spirit, though.
Yeah.
That is true.
No, for sure. Just the main organization from the region.
Another man who likes to pile on the pressure is Dakota. So let's find out how T1 fared under his rapid-fire questioning.
Hi, welcome back to more rapid-fire question action. I'm here with 23 Savage of T1. Welcome, Carl. How you doing?
I'm good.
You ready for some rapid-fire trivia?
I'm ready.
Who played in the grand final of the first TI?
Navi.
And?
I don't know.
Nobody knows the other team.
IG?
Close. Another Chinese team. Rhymes with Fleabone.
Navi and IG?
Oh, close.
Navi and Ihom?
You're right. Good job. You'd be surprised how many of your teammates said IG. Who is most likely to yell on your team in a match?
Yeah, I think it's me.
You get loud? You yell?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always hype.
You're always hype?
Yeah.
You seem pretty hyped for this interview. Can you tell me the worst roommate on your team?
Can I say coach?
Of course.
I think coach.
Who's the best player on your team?
Me.
Nice. Who's the most improved over the last year?
Carl.
Can you tell me the last movie you watched?
Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Yeah. Squid Game.
You watched Squid Game?
I watch Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Yeah.
Of course. How do you think you would do on Squid Game?
Maybe gonna die. Like...
I think I died. Was that right at the end of the interview? I can't do much. I could barely do it in the first place, and now that's absolutely killed me. I like that that's also a movie, and I know that obviously it's a TV series, and obviously English isn't the first language. But now I'm thinking about a 9-hour Squid Game movie, and I could only watch one episode of that thing at a time, so I cannot imagine the tenacity and also the trauma of watching 9 hours of Squid Game.
That would be a little bit too much, even for a Dota player. We go through it one game at a time, but even for us, it would be too much.
Yeah, we're used to the suffering, but yeah, there's still a limit before you gotta kind of take a step back.
Do you, Victor, would you commentate a Squid Game?
Oh, if the Dota players were playing it, absolutely. You know, let's get all the Dota players in. It'd be much, but we're playing for so much money. You know, we could put a bit more on the line than just a bit of video games. Come on, let's make it interesting. Let's make it exciting. Next year, we'll be there.
We wouldn't have a scene anymore.
Wow, there's so many players. We've got
just
a few
use the
we can get
retired players, you know, the All-Star game or something.
There we go. Not doing anything else. Come and play a bit of Squid Game. It's nice.
Which Dota professional would win Squid Game?
Oh, I'd have to go with Fly.
Fly.
Yeah, Fly.
Fly would win.
Probably.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be an awkward dinner? Again, I don't want to do spoilers. I want to be careful, but like Fly, No Tail, Puppy.
That would be a very interesting trio to watch out for. Probably the one that Owen would be most typecasting.
Yeah, that'd be a hype one. That would be hype. Yeah.
It's fine, right? I'm going to order myself a gold animal mask. Again, trying to avoid spoilers here. So moving swiftly on to some interesting stats from TI. I think these are overall TI stats as opposed to TI 10 statistics. We're going to bring them up in our impressively massive monitor. Unfortunately, you cannot buy these in the secret shop. Over 10 years of TI, 1,598 matches played, and I think Owen has cast approximately 600 of those. Any highlights?
See, that's a lot, maybe. Any hype from all TIs? Or from these stats specifically. I mean, there's a lot of creeps. You know, I feel bad for the creeps here. 2.8 million creep deaths. You know, it's not talked about enough. If we get enough in the chat, please, for every single creep that was killed over the 10 years of TI. Thank you.
It's not their fault they became creeps.
Exactly.
I thought more would be killed. I'm a bit underwhelmed.
You want to see more suffering?
Are you really underwhelmed?
I'm a carry player, yeah. I want death to all the creeps. That's what they're there for.
I kind of want to see what the last hit statistics are. Just because that's when we can get properly judgy and pretend that we would be able to do so much better. I think we might even have some more stats.
Oh.
Team total wins. There we go. Interesting that OG have the least amount of wins, but you have to remember that when they won TI8 and TI9, it was through the upper bracket, and obviously they formed, I think their first TI was TI6?
I think so as well.
Because Monkey Business formed 2015, I believe.
Yeah, and then they went through a couple of majors and then straight into the TI. That's probably why they have the least amount. Keep in mind that PSG LGD, have they been at every single TI since TI1?
Yeah, they're just this historic TI organization. EG has, and I'd say, look to the other team next to them. EG has had so much TI success. It's a team that just has been like a top, 4 to 6 team in almost like every TI, it feels like, other than 1 or 2 years.
And when you look at IG, it's pretty much the same situation because T1, most of their players in that interview thought that IG was the team that won TI1, but it was actually the TI2 that they managed to win, if I'm correct, right?
Yep, they won that one over Navi, and yeah, all those orgs up there, fantastic historic orgs. LG, the only one that hasn't won a TI, actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe this is the year.
Well, unfortunately, we've still got some technical difficulties in the pods going on, but it's fine. Stay with us. Stay with us. We could do a little fashion show. We're not going to do a fashion show. We're still going to talk about Dota. Don't worry. I'm not going to start talking about Counter-Strike. Don't switch off. Stick with us. In terms of, I mean, I did mention it briefly earlier when we were looking at how many matches are played, but Arian, is there a particular match that you've casted at International that has really stood out and stayed with you? I know there have been quite a few.
Well, I mean, it's probably obviously the Seb game, isn't it, right? TI Grand Finals, when OG do it. That's probably one that stands out the most that I casted. I think outside of that, of course, there's a lot of fantastic games. I mean, was it? What it was Ice. What was he playing on? Was it back on where the one that Cap casted? That was one of the considered one.
Oh,
of
the EG eHome. Yeah,
EG yeah. That
he was playing carry.
Yeah, in terms of just all games, that was quite a spectacle.
Do you get royalties from the Seb scarves?
No, I should, shouldn't I? I should. I'm very bad at business and stuff. I like to do things. People can make money out of me. I don't mind.
OG.
I'm just here for the good times.
OG, you've won
if you want to
TI
send me a
twice.
check in the post, though, OG, I'll take it.
You've won TI twice. You don't need the money. This man, however, look, he's not even wearing a proper shirt today.
I've
you
not
can
even
only
got a
afford
scarf.
T-shirts.
It's cold out.
Absolutely shocking. And you know what? We are going to have to take a short break while we get this technical stitch sorted out. I'm going to grab my little screwdriver. Yes, it is maroon. And we will be back with you as soon as we can.
A. हेलो
योरू तुम्हारे पीछे ठीक है
मत बोलिए भैया अभी बहुत अग्रेसिव खेला हो रहा है
सब पीछे से मारा है रे
का है अरे भाई पीछे का है मार रहा सब
नाइस वन एक बैक स्टैब है
आराम से बैक स्टैब एक जन से सब मर गया
वॉक करो
अरे डेरिक
वॉक करो तो भूल रहे हैं
एक जन से सब मर गया
हाँ कोई ध्यान नहीं दे रहा था ना बीमेन कोई बीमेन नहीं देख रहा था वो बीमेन पुश कर गया यहाँ पर समझ रहे
फक अरे हम तो साइट पूरा घुसा दिया था लिटरली
रश करो बाबा रश करो
तो साइट घुसेगा तब ना भाई रश होता है कोई साइट ही नहीं घुसने मांग रहा तो क्या कर सकते बताओ
वही बात है हम घुस रहे
साइट घुसो हम घुसा रहे
साइट घुसो और वो कॉर्नर चेक करो ना वो वाला
योरू
वो शॉटगन लेके रहेगा बड़ा हिट नहीं पता कितना है घुसो
इजी खेलो तुम लोग कीजिए कैसा
ओह फक पीछे आ जा नाइस
सेज रिवाइव करेगी देख ले
अच्छा
सेज वहीं एक राफ्टर से आएगी नाइस सेज राफ्टर्स नाइस अरे अरे
बाप रे बाप इतना सारा दिक्कत
क्या होल्ड के लो लो बैटरी पकड़ो
फक
दिया
हाँ ठीक है थैंक्स
चला एक टाइम पे ना इतना टेंशन हो जाता है ना ऊपर से मैं 55 हेल्थ था जान रहा है टेंशन बहुत हो जाता है वो सब का एम उतना अच्छा नहीं है जान रहा है वो सब बस मर रहा है बस और कुछ नहीं
वो लोग ब्रेन गेम्स खेल रहा है बहुत ज्यादा
ब्रेन दिला देना भाई
देखो हम गरीबी है ठीक है
हाँ ठीक
एनएच के फ्रेंजी एनएच के
हम ऊपर से जाएगा
मारो उसको जज
मारो मारो मेड
नाइस 100
ओहो
अरे स्मोक में स्पैम कर दिया रे वो लोग
अबे ये सब
मत जा
डेरिक पिस्टल ले गन उठाओ ओ दे नाइस
छोड़ो अब मत उठाओ प्लान कर पैसा मिलेगा
चलो नाइस
अबे कोई गन दो बे
स्टैप कर रहा है मैं पहले बोल दिया मैं मेरे से मांगू दे रहा हूं
दे भोसड़ी के दो चचा
क्या हुआ भैया
ओह माय गॉड
नहीं भैया हम देख रहे हैं
वॉल्यूम
20 आएगा रोटेट
तुम्हारा इसको तो हाँ
चलो पीछे चल जा
बी देखो रोटेट देखो
हम रोटेट देख रहा हूँ तुम लोग है
बैक स्टैप देखो कोई
ओ नाइस घुसो
घुस जा
अरे लौड़ा ओहो पीछे
बैक स्टैप हो गया भाई
ऊपर
बैक स्टैप से कैसे मर गया तू डेरिक
ऐसे तो सिल्वर जाओगे व्हाट इज दिस बिहेवियर
अरे मेरे को क्या हुआ
मैं तो सिल्वर जाने
हर बार बैक स्टैप देखता है ना उसको पता है एनिमी को पता चल गया अब कोई और बैक स्टैप देखना पड़ेगा
अच्छा हम जा रहे ठीक है हम बैक स्टैप देख ले रहा हूँ
रुशियन भाई दे दो ड्रीम को
ले
लास्ट राउंड इज
बी चलो पूरा रश कर दो
अच्छा बी
ठीक है बी इसको मत पता आई हैव रिवाइव एक मिनट से जाओ हम बता रहे एक लोडू मिनट से जाओ
इसको गार्डियन दे दो ना बे गार्डियन किल ड्रीम
क्लोज
अरे
ले पीछे सैंडविच कर
पीछे देखते रहे
पूरा
आराम से हाँ आराम से नहीं
ओहो प्लांट कर भाई प्लांट कर सबसे अरे लवड़ा प्लांट कर
अरे लवड़ा
वॉल कर गांड में हील डाला, गांड में हील डाल दे तुम पहले। हाँ वो होते रहेगा।
तुम लोग निकाल दोगे, मैं बता रहा
इसका
हूँ।
नीचे रहे ऊपर
आराम से।
पीछे से भी है।
अरे 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 नाइस ट्राई ब्रो।
हम लोग का खुद का वाइपर का वॉल की वजह से हम लोग मर रहे हैं, पता है? खुद का वाइपर
खुद का वाइल का वजह से मरा है, हमको पता है।
वो वॉल किया है और दिख रहा है, यूरो दिख ही नहीं रहा है।
हम ये मेन कर लूंगा रेना।
मिड देख रहा है कोई?
नहीं नहीं, तुम मिड देखो ना, मिड देखो तुम। बॉयलर से देखो, बॉयलर। हाँ वही वही उसको बॉयलर बोलते हैं।
मिड बॉय।
हम वॉल कर दे रहे और हम अंडर ट्यूब देख रहा, ट्यूब के नीचे।
Fires or Disruptors, big team fight heroes, depending on what they're playing against. And of course, Alliance might have to be thinking right now is, do we want to ban the Doom? Do we move it up in priority? Do we look for IO? Because they had a couple struggle games on it too, so let's see what it's going to be.
I think we should expect a Magnus pick too, just because of his performance yesterday was absurdly good. He did well in groups, but after what we saw yesterday, I think this should be a hero to look for, and there it is.
There we go.
Priority shifted for sure after the yesterday series.
And for T1, whenever we watch them play, they just seem like you give them a comfort pick and they will outplay you. That's the name of the game most of the time. Jenkins always says that this team will pick the greediest draft and still fight you. Like they would go 3 Midas and still fight you because they just know that they can perform the team fights better. So, Effie, could we expect more of these team fighting heroes to go with the Magnus, or we maybe see the Doom that Carl's been running around a lot?
I think it just really depends on what Alliance are looking to play here, but the reason why we expected Magnus to come out is because, number one, he does enable his greedy cores, but two, in the past, Magnus used to just be played around RP, right? And that's what people saw him as. But this new style of just horn toss skewer back as a form of initiation is absurdly good. You can play without the cooldown of RP. And in the right hands, Magnus can just check a lot of bases. And those are just ensuring that your net worth is always up and just always having the ability to initiate or counter-initiate, right? So it's incredibly valuable, especially in the hands of T1 or Alliance, by the way. S4 plays a great Magnus, so I'm a bit surprised that they didn't actually consider it here, Fogged.
Yeah, I'm surprised with their opener, actually. The 2 supports just like this. Maybe they're really expecting one of those like spirits that are really pesky and they don't want Lion to be banned out. They want to have that hard disable for it, but I know Snapfire's been super contested, but really interesting to see them just open up with that. Because now it's your supports are not going to be frontliners. Initiation will be a little bit harder, and T1's going to be the one that just snaps picks Lina. So that feels like, I mean, I look at T1s and it just feels much more comfortable, and it feels like it just ticks more boxes in the draft overall.
100%, and I think of all of the mid heroes that you want to first phase, you should be looking at the Lina because she doesn't have any bad lane matchups. She scales into the late game, she shoves waves, and can play with only 2 items, which are BOTs and BKB, and obviously built into Silver Edge, which is the DPS item of the patch. Perhaps the reasoning behind Lion is that they know that T1 do like to play heroes like Puck that are slippery and just securing it early in the draft makes sure it doesn't get banned out later. Another idea behind it could be that if they are taking a fight on Vision and they have Vision of this Magnus, Lion can pre-cast the Hex, and when he blinks in, he'll be instantly hexed, right? So that could have been what they were looking at here.
I also saw, Lion yesterday. 2 times we saw teams pick like illusion heroes into the Lion or pick like these elusive heroes into the Lion, and we're like, wow, Lion looks really good now. And we saw the mana drain like own throughout the game. He's just getting super farmed and taking out either the TB illusions or it was, I can't remember what the other one was, but either our Spectre was the other one, so.
Yeah, that's typically how it works. And Lion was forgotten for a really long time up until Puck was the mid hero of the patch 8 months ago, and it made Lion rise to popularity, right? Storm as well, and Storm has been an incredible hero throughout this tournament, I would say. I doubt we'll be seeing it come out of Alliance. It's not a limp hero, but it is pretty nice here. Like, I look at these 2 heroes, and I would like to see a Storm.
Yeah, I want something that Alliance can start the fight with that starts a fight with the Lion, that you can jump in and follow up, and something else that Lion's going to take some time, right, to get that Blink Dagger. So I want something that's just going to naturally be able to go in and start the fight, which could be that mid hero. But it's going to be limited because I did get to see I got to actually cast the T1 versus Alliance in the group stages too, and they put Limp in a bad matchup because he needed to be that kind of catch and jump in, and he never got to play the game. It was a 20-minute stomp. They got Necrophos mid. He was Ember. He was trying to be the one that like lead in pre-blink daggers on his other cores, and the game never even got off the bat for them. So
I expect S4 to fill that role we were talking about of jumping in with the Lion, but I can't really think of any high damage offlaners at the moment. But that's the nice synergy of having a Snapfire as well. You can go into the Lion and you can just throw the Mortimers from a distance. Something that I get reminded of when I look at things like this is they actually, they do ban out the Void. That's unfortunate because they did try this style of having Nico Baby just play Void, be the initiator, and putting Limp on something long range like a Sniper. And Sniper can be very good here actually because he outranges Lina and it forces her to buy a Blink Dagger.
But they did lose with the Sniper versus T1 in the group stage too, right? They like picked it versus the Razor to try to counteract it, and Limp got ran down by an ET the entire game with Zephyr chasing him. So I mean, it's definitely a good pick here. Just like that might be like this bad memory inside of Limp's mind where he's like, maybe give me something else there. So we're seeing very team-specific bans coming out, and it is going to be the Ember. So I felt like this was going to be forced, but now it's like into this matchup versus the Lina. I'm a little worried already off the bat from Limp. Because I saw this the other day. I saw this in the group stages. It was a worse matchup versus Necrophos, but is it maybe? Maybe Lina's even worse. Sure, in the mid game you can do something about it because Lina's squishy, but...
And depending on how you choose to scale your abilities, you can always just go for Flame Guard and just farm camps in between, but Ember does get severely bullied by Lina in lane. But he is going to be good at dodging her abilities, and of course, dodging Magnus's abilities, if you have a Remnant out, you can just react faster than he casts his spells.
What can we be seeing in the 3 position? Because they also talk about the DK for S4. Very successful hero against Beast Ghost. You were talking about needing someone that can be that frontliner. What are options left in the offlane?
They've traditionally liked something like a Beastmaster, something that can actually give them some natural push in the lineup. Because when you already have a mid Ember, sure, you're going to be able to fight in battle, but now your lineup is already really crippled on pushing. So that's something they really do like, something with some reach. But into Bane, that can be a little bit more complicated.
I like the idea of Mars with the Snapfire. It seems like a very strong lane, obviously with the minus armor and the physical damage from Rebuke. Also can give them the Mars Arena plus Mortimer's combo, which is has been quite successful historically.
It's also a good Hunter combo with a Lion. You're asking for a high damage offlaner. Mars does bring it to the table, so yeah. It is a high execution hero, however, which might be difficult when you're in the lower brackets. Perhaps the first game is the game where you try that out.
And out comes Dawnbreaker, so I'm really glad that this hero has had her main stage moments, right? Because when we were watching groups, there was maybe 2 or 3 Dawnbreaker games played by exclusively VP, and everyone was just like, oh, she got nerfed, she's not a great support. She doesn't have to be.
The two big ones actually are the last two picks from T1. The 2 heroes I thought were going to be amazing in the group stages, and people were like, yeah, let's not pick Bane too much. And then we come to main event, and it's like, boom, Bane every game, or Bane every other game. Same thing for Dawn. I like that pick. I think also that might dissuade them from going for something like Mars, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then, like, the Mars ult comes down, Dawnbreaker's going to be able to set up and counter-initiate heavily, so maybe that might put a little bit more fear into Alliance to just look for head-on team fights, because right now it's looking a little hard for them, too.
For sure, and to add on to that, this concept that they have going with this Lion and Ember is basically get in, kill a target quickly, and get out. And by having the Dawnbreaker, you can negate that. Also, Bane is quite good at killing the Ember Spirit, so they do help that a little bit. They do have the catch for him.
The fun T1 poke is, I know what, it was Curtis who likes to always say it. Now they have like a sleep into a skewer. They have like this really fun little combo. Lots of poke as well coming out from Dragon Slave. They have Shockwave, so they're always going to have good ways to just spam, take fights.
What's the logic behind the Morphling here?
It's a pretty good Morphling game.
Okay.
There is the Bane who could catch him out and kill him. That is a threat there, but in the Dawnbreaker, Lina, and Magnus, you can preemptively cast your Strength More fight, and scales better than these heroes, including the Lina. It's just that I don't feel like he's going to have the space, honestly.
It feels greedy.
Yeah.
With the 2 supports as well, like they're kind of weaker supports. I feel like his lane could be a bit hard, and in the past, also, people used to really like Lina versus Morphling, also. Like, sure, it's a little bit different. Times have changed where it's just right-clicking Lina, but it's still kind of same concept. Like, if you catch Morph in a bad situation, boom, Laguna Blade plus a double nuke, he's probably just going to die if he's out of position.
And the thing about that is you don't want to go in first with your Morphling because you could get gripped or LSA'd from Fog, right? But your Ember doesn't want to go first either because the same thing could happen to him. So they actually do have a lack of a strong, durable frontliner because neither Ember nor Morphling can fill that role for each other unless there's some kind of snowball start on the Ember.
What's the S4 hero even left, right? Shaker's gone, DK's gone, Tide's gone. It's like Beastmaster's one of the few left, but...
They've done Legion before against the Bane. We've seen how that's worked out.
Yeah.
It's a really tough matchup, especially if you have to be the one initiating because you just get Nightmare, and that's over.
It could just be the Mars here. It doesn't
well, there's no Mars anymore.
Yeah.
So we're out of heroes. Is Centaur a possibility here? Can we run that as the tanky initiator, even if he's not the most consistent stun?
I just haven't seen Centaur at all. I
Yeah,
don't know if the hero's very good anymore.
I don't think he's good enough here, especially with the way people have been playing Lena, just building a Satanic. She absolutely shreds them and has no concern of dying, right? It's just weird to me that they picked this Morphling over the S4 hero in their last phase up, because I don't think it would have been banned out here because it doesn't look like the greatest of Morphling games. Like, he does fine versus all of these heroes individually, right? He can scale. There's no kind of instant stun, but like you said, he can die from fog. He can just get burst down if he makes one mistake.
And now they had a bunch of time to really think about what that last pick is for Savage. Just like, okay, do you want to play like a PL or something? I mean, there's an Ember, so maybe not the PL, but he can just think about his specific matchup, what he wants to play versus that Morphling. And he has a Bane, so super strong lane that he's going to have. He's going to be able to farm really well. He's not going to be pressured too much.
It's also a Savage emblematic hero, the Morphling, so he knows exactly what he hates playing against.
Exactly.
So it's a tough thing to give him time on. And Mira's completely right. If you're picking, when you have the last two picks, you have to consider what can your enemy ban in these last two bans, which is why many times you just pick the hero that you think might get banned or the position you think might get banned. And now S4 without options. I mean, I guess, the Wraith King is going to be the option. Okay.
Ooh.
How do you think of that matchup against Morphling?
So they do want to play a higher tempo game, and Wraith King does hit his timings quite early, especially if he chooses to go for some kind of armlet build, right?
Yep.
They don't want to give Morphling space to farm, but the carry matchup of Morphling to Wraith King, like, Morphling destroys Wraith King, I would say. And
Especially with stats build.
it has to just be high tempo, run them over, because you look at Alliance's draft, there's not really any high cooldowns that you're afraid of. There's a mana burn from Lion, there's Chains, Ember can just keep you there. So I'm guessing they just want to steamroll them after hitting a timing.
So I need something fast. I mean, Timber is a good option. I know Brian was like screaming it over there on the left versus like the Wraith King and all that. It's not bad. It is an S4 hero, and there's just not really much left. He's gonna go for his Sanking. I feel like these lanes look super weak from Alliance. I'm worried. I've seen the Sanking struggle almost every game I've seen it played lately.
So the strength of the Sanking here is the defensive ability, right?
Yes.
He's really good at defending towers, really good just setting up Sandstorm. Hard to push the safe lane tier 1 with that, theoretically.
I would agree, and if we're gonna go on this 20-minute timing that T1 want to play for, then Sand King is one of the better heroes you can pick here, but it's pretty much because there is nothing left. However, there is the ability to stun or counter-initiate, which is always going to be nice. It's just that I don't think this Sand King is going to be the one to go in first. Something Alliance do have going for the Morphling, though, is there's a lack of a natural vessel buyer on T1.
Yeah, definitely. Did we? I don't think we saw the. Yeah, I don't think we saw the Dawnbreaker go for it. There is Enfeeble, which can be frustrating in later stages, but early on we've seen, most people aren't really skilling it. So I think if Alliance, if they can play fast-paced, if they don't get smashed in their lanes, they do have a good way to fight back. Because I do think T1s is a bit greedy for them to actually just it's going to take some time for them to build up this Wraith King, as we've seen. That hero's gotten nerfed several times. So Alliance, I mean, I have to just stare at lanes. Like first 10 minutes, I have to see if S4 has a decent time on this Sand King, because I've seen so many games lately as Sand King where this hero just doesn't get to play. Like it dies like 4 or 5 times in laning phase, and then you're just a single blink stun.
But there's also this potential of Alliance playing the tempo game too, depending on how lanes go, right? Because if Sand King does get the early blink and Morphling doesn't get severely pressured, he does do well individually versus these heroes, right?
Right.
And we've seen Nico Baby group up with his team early and pressure towers and not just sit back and farm triangles. That's not really his style of carry.
And you were asking earlier for a high damage offlaner. Sand King does bring that to the table. You have a decent hunting squad with the Lion and the Snapfire as well. It's really just the lanes, it seems like to me, for Alliance. That's the biggest worry.
That's really my biggest concern. If they can make it out of the lanes and if they're even, I think they can actually do a pretty good job of fighting back. As long as they just avoid team fights, be very aware of Dawnbreaker. There's a hero that not everybody's really playing so much, so just be really aware of that global potential.
Well, let's see if T1's coach, March, agrees with this analysis, and he also thinks that they can take them over. As we go down to Sir Action Selects, who's going to ask him some questions.
Hello, March. Thank you so much for taking time with us. Game's about to begin. Strong opener with Lena Magnus. Saw you took a little bit of time with that last pick. What was going through your head?
We were thinking between a few heroes, the carry heroes that we wanted to pick, right? And yeah, we were trying to just find the best option there.
Don't give away too much, my friend. We still have a whole best of 3. Looks like Alliance's lanes looking a little weak. Do you expect your boys to take advantage of that?
Yep, I think their lanes are weak, but they have a better late game going in with Sand King and Morphling, so I think our team wants to take advantage of that.
All right, well, best of luck. We will see if they will as our game begins. Let's throw it to the casters.
Thank you, Sir Action Slacks. Alliance versus T1. Sunspan with Cinderin, best of 3. And this is for...
Помогите, помогите, помогите.
The battle begins.
Going off that win yesterday, I heard in the pregame the discussion about how S4 has said they've learned a lot from the group stage, and Alliance is one of those teams that can, how to say, they can pick up some momentum, they can learn from their mistakes, and obviously it is a tough matchup today, but
when you play in group stage, not everybody's really scouting each other as closely because you're playing a ton of games and the teams at the same time. But when it gets to this stage, there's a lot of prep that goes in for this specific team. Alliance has a little bit more time to work with, I would say. But T1 obviously coming from upper bracket, they're obviously disappointed that they lost that best of 3, but that should be an exciting matchup nonetheless. And of course, Alliance is, I mean, they were the top EU team overall because of, what was it, #1 in each DPC season, like going into the major.
Yeah, unfortunately for Alliance, their showings at the actual majors weren't what they had hoped. Just bombed out both times. So obviously for them, they have a lot to prove here. And yeah, the whole thing about, I think, is pretty important. If you do talk about Dota with S4, he's a very intelligent player. The way he thinks about the game is a huge part of why Alliance won back at TI3. Just this understanding of macro movements in the game. Yeah. Alliance were outstanding in that tournament. It's obviously many years ago, but they kind of, I wouldn't say they pioneered split pushing because that concept that was known back in Dota 1. They perfected it. Mastered it at that event, and they did such a great job just playing the map at a different level from other teams that eventually they got caught up to, and then they started losing in subsequent tournaments after TI, but I think S4 really a clever player. So hopefully the prep that he has done going into this will show. But so far so good for T1 in the lane, I would say. Carl in the mid lane, Lina against Ember. You know, this reminds me of a game we had yesterday. Was it Emo who played Ember against Shadow Fiend from Team Spirit? That was 2 days ago by now. Time flies when you're having fun. But it was the IG versus Team Spirit series in the upper bracket, where Emo got a last pick Ember into a known Shadow Fiend. So picked it into a losing lane, but they assessed that it was still one of potential impact on the game, and they did end up winning that game, obviously. Limp in a similar situation here. Lina's a tough matchup. You're not going to win this lane ever if the players are equally matched. And I think Carl against Limp is a pretty fair lane matchup overall in terms of just raw lane mechanical skill. Imagine Carl will be going ahead here.
Yep, I mean, relatively even to start things out, but of course it is early. Like you said, they're going to get each respective water rune. Nico Baby this time around will be playing the Morphling in this bot lane, and we talked a bit about Breaker who gets partial there. He shots will bring them back in, and Zep secured the first blood with that last right click.
Playing these G5s against Dawnbreaker, you need to be quick on your fingers. You need to be ready for that play to come. As soon as the Celestial Hammer goes out, you have to stun her. Hanskin hesitated for too long there, and oh, sorry, FNG, not Hanskin. Let's focus on the right player here. Hesitated for too long with that Earth Spike and ended up taking 2 attacks from the Dawnbreaker. Yeah, that needs to get stopped instantly. As soon as the hammer gets thrown, you have to stun, and gets punished there. And Zephyr manages to get first. Very good for the Dawnbreaker. We'll be getting boots as a reward. This hero is exceptionally good at chasing down heroes, but it's just so strong in lane. So with these freshly picked up boots, for Zephyr to just go aggressive.
He's going to take some damage here, but we talked about the Dawnbreaker support in the past, and some lineups feel a little iffy, as it were, especially as a support. Obviously, she's going to be very good in the laning stage, as we're seeing right now. This game in particular, there are a lot of stuns that set up her ultimate for the later stage of the game. The Nightmare, the Fiend's Grip, obviously, MSA's pretty low cool, Fire Blast as well, and then the huge RP. So literally every hero can theoretically set up a similar go, in which, I mean, I think you and I agree, so that hero going mid-game and beyond. Top lane, White Mom gets caught out, takes considerable amount of Nightmare into the Wraith Fire Blast now is 20 Savage, blocking S4. He will be able to walk away as those little skelly buddies are chasing him.
The boys, as we call them.
The boys. I think that's copyrighted by a TV show, so I can't say that.
Okay, well,
You've done a great service.
there's probably not that much overlap between the writers of that TV show and TI, but you never know.
You never know.
You get surprised sometimes
That
with,
wasn't too
with where
bright.
people say this live. So,
Actually,
yeah. Yes.
have no interest. Into the Starbreaker, the Burn Strike. But he's going to take so much damage from that hammer.
I think one saving grace for Alliance here against the Dawnbreaker ult, like we talked about. Yes, you have a lot of good combos with it, but it's not a good Ags game at the very least. There's no hero on Alliance that really suffers against that 60% evasion. Morphling a lot of the time, you know, go for more of a magic-based build with the E-Blade, and I think Waveform, Attack Talent, and all this stuff that comes way later in the game, I think can't miss, if I'm not mistaken. I'm actually not 100% on that. Good Waveform.
Looks like Cuckoo might be able to combo here. Has his skewer available, but is just completely stun locked by Alliance, who get their first kill of the game and this series.
Yeah, they can easily take advantage of that with the Dawnbreaker rotation top. They know they're 2v1. Lion, one of the best supports in the game, 2v1. Not that good 2v2, especially as a 5, but whenever you outnumber, you just have so much lockdown for your carry to just go to town. And they do kill Cuckoo's mag. So he has still managed to almost find level 5 down here, so I don't think Cuckoo is too concerned. The game plan is coming along nicely. Lina and Wraith King are having total free games, basically. So not the biggest of deals, but obviously Alliance will take what they can get in these lanes.
Now Whitemon not able to secure the rune. Limp will still get that invisibility. As looking at the overall CS here, let me bring it up real quick. Wraith King sitting at 38 and 10 versus a 33 and 8 of the Morphling, so relatively even. Of course, 23 Savage will eventually go to the jungle. This is the thing I like about Wraith King as a position 1. It kind of creates space for something like a position 4 like Dawnbreaker, theoretically, to get some farm once he enters that jungle semi full time, if that's even a word.
Dire's middle tower is under
called
attack.
part-time. Job as S4 gets the first strike off. Whitemon taking some damage, but the cookie ends up saving S4 for about 2 seconds.
Radiant's courier
But
has
Zephyr
been
there to
killed.
clean up yet again. Seems to be everywhere, and he doesn't even have his ult yet.
No, he has a lot of freedom to... Cuckoo's doing such a good job. Playing alone though. There's almost level 6, so you don't even... Might even end up killing Austin here if it doesn't come over to him.
He's going for it. Limp in
has
the
the
area.
hammer.
Can't pursue any further. Cuckoo
Radiant's top
getting
tower
some mana
is under
drained here.
attack.
Has to secure out the safety. That means he's completely depleted.
Surely Zephyr doesn't do this, right? Okay. It almost looked like he was going to try to dive
fountain
in the
dive
base.
at 7 minutes.
Look, Cuckoo from yesterday, just go for it, and then if you fail, it's right, we need wards. So that's true. He did have a
Into the waveform, Cuckoo will be done again. So 2 kills in the lane for Alliance. Nico Baby and company starting to get back into this game, which, I mean, it's not like it's out of reach by any means, but T1 definitely off to a slightly better start right now.
And Nico claiming that is very, very good for his opponent. 250 extra gold here. Getting the treads flown out now. Very curious to see what build he goes for, right? Because as the draft panel pointed out, there are some aspects of this game that can't be dangerous to farm. So you can maybe see him go for something like the Liquid Sphere.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
And FNG gets the nice cookie. Stunned again. Carl just getting kited around. Another kill goes the way of Alliance as FNG taking some harassment, but looks like he will live through the day thanks to the support of the rest of his team.
Yeah, great rotation there. Bringing Hanskin was crucial to killing off Belina. They're going to smoke here in full vision, though. So T won't definitely know that this is happening. Let's see if they guess the right move, though. FNG mana burning here. Zephyr's going to walk right into him.
Yeah. The fact that Zephyr is level 4 despite being
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Of regeneration.
Kind of weird, actually. Feels like he should be a higher level right now, but
he hasn't taken much lane. That's what you trade off when you leave the offlane, right? So that you give the Magnus the solo experience, and those are nice. If you don't soak up any lane space, you don't progress, right? So I think now that Zephyr is showing that he might even sit here all the way until level 6, but Bane will need the tome in this game. So I'll just park him here.
Never refuse good.
As you pointed out, top lane is also an option. You could just put
Radiant's middle
Wraith King into the
tower is
jungle.
under attack.
This would get. You're definitely going to get more gold on Wraith King if you let him take the lane and the big camp. But S4 making sure that is not the case here. Digging that up with a bounty, getting a bounty run out of his.
Dead here. Actually, sidestepping the Starbreaker.
This
is a Sand King with
Radiant's top tower
Vanguard
is under
against the Wraith
attack.
King skeletons, and he still dies. So you can't really be tankier than this at this point as Sand King with Soul Ring Vanguard, but it's just not enough against these three heroes. Alliance looking a little bit lost over here in the triangle, I gotta say. They've been standing here for quite a long time, and they're just on top of a ward, so essentially kind
Radiant's
of
top
wasting their
tower
time.
is under attack.
They obviously don't know this, but T1 are just not gonna go there. And you understand what Alliance are thinking. You're playing against a lineup that has Max Wraith King.
Radiant's
You're
middle tower
assuming
is
it's
under
gonna be
attack.
big ancient stacks, but T1 honestly haven't really paid much attention to that area just yet. So I don't know if this is going to be something we see developing
Dire's
as
top
like
tower
teams, because of the anticipation that the opposite team are going to invade your triangle. You just don't focus on it that much early unless you feel like you can clearly defend it. And you just
Guarding as well, but S4 able to get the burrow strike off in time to distance. But again, completely outnumbered with 4 members of T1 in the vicinity.
He is now 0-4. It was what Fox was talking about. This happens in a lot of games for offlane Sand King, especially if he's left alone. And now, finally, all right, FNG, I think, took the Tome of Knowledge. So he's going to make a move like that. Easily burst anyone they find, except Wraith King, who can, of course, put a point in the ultimate. That would be a very big thing.
Radiant's top
I
tower
mean, easy
is
one
under
on top of
attack.
that. FNG gets his first
Radiant
finger stack
structures
of
are
the game.
fortified.
And now some pressure being applied to this tier 1 mid.
Yeah. Here, they do that in connection with the siege creep being alive mid.
Radiant's top tower is
Searing chains with the Mortimer's Kiss. Look, from super long
Dire's
range.
middle
Great
tower is
anticipation
under
as well.
Dyer's middle tower has fallen.
Yeah, getting the mid tower out of that original
Radiant's
smoke
top tower
onto the
is
arena.
under
So,
attack.
a very high value play. More or less equalizing the game that actually they were starting to fall 2 gold behind, but found a lot out of that. And of course, let's keep in mind Nico Baby is getting a lot of space as well. Opting to go for a first time
Radiant's
Scotty
bottom
here.
tower is under attack.
Interesting choice.
Wow. First, well, after more than that, but that's, I don't know if I've ever seen that actually.
It's not the most common build. A lot of the times you see Morph getting some sort of a build-up item, or sometimes you get the full momentum, sometimes you see the diffuser.
Radiant's
Super good
bottom
Scotty
tower
healing
is under attack.
Breaker. Alexis Bane's going to be taken out. 3 shots from him.
I love Armlet on Wraith King. It is such a good item. Whatever you go after, if it's Silver Gold, I guess in some cases Radiance. I really like the Armlet first. You just hit such a strong peak already 10 minutes in with these 2 items. You saw basically 2-shotting Lion there with that massive crit. 270% critical strike damage on 4-second cooldown is no joke.
That's the old CK skill too. They kind of swapped.
Yeah.
Poor CK. More have an affinity towards Wraith King more than CK these days anyway.
Yeah. Well, what they did do for CK, though, they increased the chance, right? I think at some point the critical strike was 11% chance, now it's 33, and the numbers were obviously tweaked.
11? Are you sure about
I'm pretty sure it used to be that. It's a long time ago.
11?
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay, so here's one of the perks of
Dyer's
okay, you have a lot of
bottom
things you remember, you also have a lot of things you can't remember, and a lot of things you might misremember, which makes for great conversation, because sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but at the very least, people are talking.
Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and you're always an idiot as well.
Yeah,
so.
that is true. That comes with getting older.
Indeed. I bought
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Harassed a bit here as Limping Company.
It's good, strong in lane for
Radiant
T1. Flank
are
now from
scanning.
T1. 23 Savage.
Radiant's middle
Someone's in
tower
trouble.
is under attack.
And in the trees,
Dyer's
if they can
top
get
tower
that'll be
is
the
under
high priority target. Looks like we'll can scheme things instead. The rest of his team abandons him, but with good reason.
Alliance dipping there with 1 death is very good. considering an angle T1 out there and how Alliance's heroes were positioned, that could have gone way worse. Yeah. If 23 Savage could have found the high target.
Question is, does T1 actually want to push this? Because S4 looks to be mounting some sort of a defense. S4 not too far away from a Blink Dagger himself. His wave will almost ensure that he picks that up, in fact. And
Dire are scanning.
with that, likely to try to get something started. Of course, this is the beauty of Zephyr, like you talked about so many times. Or I should say, Dawnbreaker.
One time.
Well, we know
actually twice. I did talk about it twice.
We've had a couple games.
See, that's one of the perks of being old. You can just pick, you know, was it once or twice? I don't know. You talked about it a lot, you know.
Rudely interrupted.
Sorry.
Solar Guardian just allows you to be everywhere. It's like a mini hop. It's like you can push the lanes really easily and then join the fight when and if you die, it's not that big of a deal.
All right, so if you're confused about what he just said, the point he's making, it's a global ability, okay? That was it has nothing else in common with Center.
I really appreciate it.
It is global.
Kuko, he's going to skew for
Radiant's
as
middle
a fish.
tower is under attack.
As a result, S4 has the Burrow Strike to cancel TP, and Hans he should be able to do that pretty easily. Actually reminds me of power. The extension was updated today with a bunch of new features, one of which was the most this community out. Well, what am I trying to say? The one people wanted the most, which is the Spark the Skills videos as well.
Very nice.
If you don't understand a word that we're trying to actually explain in terms of the abilities, you can look for yourself. Makes our job easier. Also takes over our
in the
job.
future, we won't need to say anything. It will just be all of it in the tool.
That's right.
The tool will just start communicating as well. It will cap for us.
Yeah, AI will take over one day. I think we agree on this. You could be the leader of that. As you can see, I don't think that Alliance wants to push 2K. Now we're for T1 though. As just about to be finished on Carl. All right, what's the go time for each respective team? Because we have the Blink Dagger on S4. We don't have the Blink quite yet on Kuku. He went for the Helm, which we've been seeing a lot in this tournament.
Like you said, the dagger is coming out to Magnus.
Okay, it's on its way. Great.
He does have the dagger.
But what's the go time?
T1's time is really, really strong right now, actually. They got dagger, BKB, as well as the Deso on Wraith King, so there are a lot of potential plays opening for them right now. I think T1 tower and maybe even fight would be great, and then you can think about Roshan, perhaps. Wraith King, pretty good hero killing Rosh, especially with this item build. Alliance, what do they have coming? So he's gonna get Scotty.
Skewer back from Kuku. Continue your thought, please.
Yeah, so Scotty coming up on Morph. Ember is going Kaya Sanj with brown boots. Not sure how good for Limp, but obviously he is very far behind the Lina, so perhaps you just need to get a little bit creative with which direction you go in, and those are pretty much the big items. FG only 300 away from Blink, as a matter of fact, so maybe he can get that too. As 5 line, that's not a bad thing. Around 18 minutes, pretty good.
T1 will finally get this to one spot.
Is under attack.
What did you expect?
Take out the tower, but it's very healthy.
For lack of a better word, that seemed a bit almost. It's obvious from our perspective with the vision that we have, but you're pushing the top tier 1 tower with only Snapfire protecting you, not Blink Sinking that instantly interrupt spells like Grip there or counter the Lina. But also T1 weren't really showing that many heroes to inspire you with
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
I think Alliance did
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And yeah, what did T1 effectively use? Only really Fiend Scrape. Laguna Blade is a low cooldown. That's going to be ready against P. I think if you're T1, you find this double damage rune here, you're like, all right, let's just go Roche. Yep. Teamfight is available. So,
and we're going to from Alliance to see if they find a kill. Decide if it's going to dodge some spells from Carl.
Radiant's middle tower is under
attack. Taking 3 damage in this engagement.
20 damage, almost one-shot a Snapfire with Dalian.
Double damage as well.
not been pretty. They kind of equalized the early game alliance to that, having a top lane teams that ever win in this tournament have literally been on get out of lane, either do very well or you at least stay afloat, and then the team sets up moves where your hero is very high tempo and can do a lot, but it just hasn't really been the case for Alliance here. So you see the smoke get broken.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
They even find limp bottom here in the picture-in-picture bottom right. But
his dead body somewhere.
We can pinpoint the position of the corpse.
I mean, he's specifically having a pretty rough game. 8k net worth versus the 10.5 from Lina.
Handskin. Good ward placement. He will get some info and actually survive this, perhaps. The wall.
Yeah, that was. Some more TPs from Alliance are coming in. Double
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Collateral kill here. Whitemon just got nightmare out at 23 seconds.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Technically, Ember died quite a while before. Hanskin, the last remaining, attempting to TP. We'll be fine. And T1 just dominating this game. Number 1 is to 3. And again, if you're just joining us, this is an elimination.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Yeah, crucial, right? They go for the tower dive. S4 with a very good Sandstorm double stun, but where's the follow-up? The other heroes just aren't in position. The way it starts is as a 10-second dive on Snapfire. They're taking so long to get in behind the tower and in position. You need more resources there. Like, if you want to take the all the heroes ready, you know you're behind in the game. You're not going to win fights 3v5. So either you bring the whole glory or you just drop it and lose a hero there. But Alliance tried to do it.
Radiant's
it's not
bottom
going to
tower
come at this level. And T1, they're doing a great job at administering their heroes, bringing them all around together, finding
Dire's
the team
top
moves.
tower is under attack.
And I mean, it's easy to say what Alliance have to do, but it's a lot harder to do it.
Yeah, as you can see, the win probability greatly in favor of T1 as expected after getting off to this really fast start.
Yeah.
Radiant's
Game
top
Wall's
tower
favorite hero is Sand King, as we've talked about before.
That is true.
That's this slide.
Oh, okay. Big for Alliance onto Carl. That's exactly what they need here.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Pressure the tier 2 mid. And it's just gonna go down. Aegis hasn't even been claimed yet. Oh wait.
Radiant's
the
middle
item
tower
on
has
Wraithing
fallen.
is so good. Brigand's Blade, the neutral. Because your first hit does so much damage that immediately get to the threshold where it starts mattering really quickly. Crazy good. Okay, trivia.
Huskar.
Trivia.
Huskar. That mountain fight. FNG going wait forming to safety. 20% the company not going to pursue any further. Okay, he gets that.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
No starter. Finally dies. Such a pesky Bane Elemental. And Alliance getting some trades here.
Yeah, that's pretty good for Alliance given the circumstances. So you get a kill. It gets 2 actually. Gets Cuckoo as well as Whitemon. So it's going to make some item progression here.
Yep.
Eyeing up a Lincoln. This doesn't feel like a very strong build to me, just because like you're going to have these stats. You don't have the massive combo play with Sand King when you go Axe or some massive damage output from an E-Blade. So I'm just worried that the damage isn't going to be there when T1's heroes get a little bit bigger. That's going to be my concern.
Is this one of those instances where when you're behind you kind of take more risks to try to get back into the game, and going Lincolns just feels too safe almost?
It's the thing, you know, I love to say this, you're playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And playing not to lose in this day and age of Dota rarely works in my experience. If you're behind, you need to go you don't have a 15% chance of winning with a play, right? If it's the best chance you have, you take it even though the odds are terrible. Because the alternative is even worse, which is you don't go for it and then you just lose by default. And that is the thing I think, you know, not that we're going to be talking a lot about public games or anything, but I think that's a mentality that people are not particularly good at adapting to in their public games, is that if you're far behind, hiding away is not a winning strategy, pretty much ever, unless the enemy team is going to beat your base.
Which happens.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the level of play, right?
Than in pro play, though, right? So
it depends on the level of play, of course, but yeah, sometimes you just got to take them, even if the odds aren't good. Carl will be spotted up by his model.
Yeah, that's a good question. Solo Guardian, though, and just like that, T1 is here in numbers. FNG sacrificing himself to the gods here. X4 gets horn tossed, and likely will lie down next. 2 kills for T1. And it's attempting to get out of dodge. Length is apparently goes through fog.
Right, here's my trivia. If you know this, what is something you would really want me to give you if you're right? I'm very confident you don't know this.
Okay, a Snickers.
A Snickers. Okay, right, you'll get. All right, that's the product right there.
Regeneration.
I'll get you a note. What is the name of the passive of Brigand's Blade?
The passive.
It's called Dark Mercy. That was.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I couldn't remember the first one.
Pretty good. You can get half a bar for that. Impressive.
Are you gonna eat the first? I don't
get
want
you
that.
all excited. I will do it. I will
don't.
do that for you. I'm a good friend.
So you say.
That's actually a Jenkins quote. Let's pretend I never said that.
True. So T1 is shellacking for sure so far. The question is, what can Alliance do? They're going for that safe build on with the Lincoln Sphere. And really,
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
BKB, which is really needed, a casual Sage with Maelstrom.
Radiant's top tower is
Titanic
falling.
next.
Really?
Again, it's just worried about the damage, right? Like Ember wins Sun into KB.
Well, I think, no, he's still going Link, though, right? He has the
ultimate and he's queued as his next quick buy, which usually when pro players do that, it's like, okay, the thought process is there, right? You're like, okay, this is the next thing I want. I guess a lot of value to E-Blade just because if you get a Blink Hex from Lion onto, say, Lina, you can actually burst someone instantly with all of the magic damage you have, but you're not really taking advantage of it. The downside to that kind of build is, well, where's your physical component in a lineup that's almost purely magical? So then that would be a problem. But this way you have neither, kind of, right? Yeah. Morph can play to survive, but he's not really going to kill.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
So worrying lines, but if you want because Morph survives and turns it around, then maybe they can find
quick Hex. S4. No, not going to go for the Epi.
No. Good damage on 23 Savage, but one of the great boons to Wraith King is this lifesteal. So 2 hits on the wave heals a lot.
And Nico Baby now Lincoln online. And yeah, a lot of, I mean, I guess not a lot. There's a decent amount of single target skill from T1 to take that off. From it just takes so long to cast. It's feeble. It's a bit of a process, and especially against something like Morph. I can see the thought process for sure.
The cast point of Enfeeble is actually not that bad.
Did they? I guess they've changed that skill so much.
Yeah, I think a while ago that got changed. It's always been sort of good Linken's Breaker skill just because it's high cast range and it's such a, I don't want to say unimportant skill, but you know what I mean, right? You're not throwing your Nightmare to break a Linken so you don't have it defensively. This is one of the best spells in the game in my opinion against Linken. So all Mount needs to do is have good positioning, take the Linkens with the Enfeeble, and then he can look for or Nightmare, whatever he wants to do.
Alright, 23 Savage.
They're poking him quite well here.
Nice armlet toggle for now. He has the potential of going for the AC next.
Very close.
He will live.
Good out.
He does have 2 lives, so it'll be difficult to take him out regardless.
Alright, Sunsven trivia.
Oh boy.
What is the passive of Dragon Scale?
That I have no idea. But we'll say armor.
You know, based on some of the naming conventions we've had, that's not a bad guess. It is called Afterburn.
Yeah, I would not. That sounds like a shaving product almost. As we have not ready to go out quite yet. Cinderin is Alliance trying to do something here against T1, but the longer they wait, the more the deficit becomes, it seems. And Limp will just be TPing out for now, but has a Remnant available to come back into the fight if he wants.
That is a tanky courier. 23 Savage will get Elven Tunic.
Yeah, and
what is the
AC?
passive of Elven Tunic?
I don't look at
it. Doesn't have one. It was a trick question.
Well, technically it does have a passive.
Passives,
yeah.
but no name.
No name. Alright, understood. Almighty. Literal one shot. FNG. You're used to expecting this out of a PA in this stage of the game, but Wraith King essentially right now, that is the Wraith King version of one dagger and I'm die. Yeah, I don't know. Just 29 minutes literal PA. one shot. I don't expect that still. Maybe 39.
With Mac team at Deso? I don't know. I think I would kind of expect that.
Okay, well.
We have different levels of expectancy. I get using your team.
That's right, so we're in S4. Trying to mount some sort of defense here, but this is online for Carl. Obviously, Wraith King doesn't need one. Although we do see them take it relatively often, but I like to see it on the lean of this game. Considerable damage done to that tier 3 top, and T1 going to reset.
Carl hits really hard with this Empower. I think in a way it's still underappreciated when we commentate Empower. We're always focused on the melee heroes, the cleave, the confirm ancients, etc. But
Can't outrun a wild
having any hero that just attacks a lot inherently just gives Empower value, even if it's ranged, right? Lina has insane attack speed, so she's probably one of the best Empower heroes in the meta right now, actually better than some melee heroes. Oh my god.
Not gonna hit though, Carl. One of the few mistakes from T1 this game. Performance thus far.
Well,
but they won't sweat it, I'm sure, as this lead
Radiant's
is
chat wheel pretty much on point. No mistake there, playing the sad trombone.
Nico Baby stay on half.
Radiant structures are falling.
There's a Solar Guardian as well. Nico Baby. Very tanky right. Oh, that Link is here. Nice world trying to get the center combination. Continue to be a constant here with these players. Looks like Wraith King is next. That's after the reincarnation, so T1 have to back off.
That's a very
nice
good
defense.
Yeah, they only had to use the Sand Peak buyback and all of that. Arguably, maybe, you know, Carl getting a little bit overzealous trying to kill Morph. As we've talked about, it's a tanky Morphling, and you don't necessarily have to kill the Baby in a position like that. You can safely, you know, go for other heroes that die a lot faster or try to push the tower, but a little bit bloodthirsty. You can get carried away in these positions. Again, this RP is good, but great counterplay from Haskins to get the double Earth Spike. Lina didn't pre-BKB this. That will save Nico Baby getting him out. And this is where the overcommitment happens, right? So you go for this, go very, very deep. Solar Guardian interrupted here by another good 2 hero stun from FNG. And now you're just in a really compromised position.
Not only is Morphling tanky, but it's not really doing that much damage. It's not like the E-Blade build or anything like that. You can just go for the other kills.
And now Nico has the item I like to see. He's got the axe. So now he can turn into Sand King, and that's big. This gives them a double Earth Strike combination play. Yeah. He needs to be careful. He's taking so much heavy. He is, but looks like he's getting a lot of strength here with the blade. As for this time, he doesn't have buyback, and as T1 obviously know this, just back in the enemy base. So this does open up a potential push down
that
play
actually
for them.
is pretty big because you can't send to Sand King now. The Centaur stop there, top and land. Attempting a TP, but they are
Burn, baby, burn.
Keep the PMA.
DSJ.
Still a minute 20 left on the Aegis. 14-1. Like best case scenario for Alliance, this is a 5 versus 4 once this buyback comes out. But like I said, Morphling can't turn this tanking for another 40 seconds, so this is like
Radiant's
Sapphire
middle
could be good
tower
later
is under
in the
attack.
game. I don't even work his talent to get the little shredder
Radiant's
thing.
middle tower has fallen.
It's going to be a complete preview for T1.
Radiant's middle
Like
barracks
Lina is just
has
an
fallen.
absolute
Radiant's
artillery.
middle
That's
barracks
not really the
has
right
fallen.
word. Machine gun was what I was looking for. Go ahead.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Not anymore. That's 2 right off the bat here. And you can see S4 feedback in 10 seconds, but it's going to be 2 full sets of racks for T1.
Yeah, and they might back off here and wait for the next opportunity. You don't have to risk any push here in order to finish the game. If you wait 50 seconds, it's pretty much back. Gaben giving Alliance 1 bet here.
Okay.
Gracious.
To to be fair, S4 in that original high ground defense did a really good job.
Gives them 0. He's had enough.
Oh boy.
You started talking about saying like, I don't like this hero anymore, so there goes your last percent. Thanks. Everything you touch, don't you?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay.
Aegis is now
kind of like
claimed.
Kyle with predictions.
Yeah, that's actually an uncanny skill that he has.
It's pretty impressive.
Now T1 looking to finish this game, although no Aegis to work with now, and Alliance obviously know that, and this is going to be their best chance to win a fight. For Nico Baby to morph into S4 soon.
I bet Kyle, I challenge you, Kyle, to tweet right now. S this in the bag. Let's see how strong the curse is. If you do that and T1 end up losing, you will get a candy bar.
Oh,
of your choice from me.
Your choice. Wow. He might
his phone. Quite exquisite and expensive candy bars out there if you know where
Dire's
to
top
look.
tower is under attack.
That's a lot to gain here for Kyle,
Dire's
and no risk
structures
even.
are fortified.
That's true. Well, the risk is ruining his image of getting everything wrong.
That's true. It's actually pretty valuable to him, I think.
I think so too. He's really enjoying that.
Yeah. Has to be fun.
T1, if they're in this game, S4 wants to defend. See how much they have in the tank here. T1 going to be happy. Tier 3 will back and reset.
Roche can spawn in 2 minutes. If you want to, you can wait for this.
I can't blame them. I mean, this is TI.
High stakes.
TI 10, lower bracket. Another you can actually check the bracket right now. That's a new addition to the extension. If you go to the standings, it shows the full bracket. Very nicely done.
Okay, Sunshine, I have a trivia for you.
Oh boy.
What's the passive?
Not passive.
Of Mindbreaker called. I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
You like very simple names.
Silence.
That's the first word. What is the second word?
Is it silent something?
Yes.
Silent strike.
Silent strike. Okay, you get your point. That's a really good guess.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Definitely did look over my shoulder there and keep a test.
I would never do that.
No, you actually didn't. I trust you.
Why would I?
You have so much to gain from this.
No, I'd like to look like an idiot.
Your image. Oh, that's true. You and Kyle start a team.
Maybe we should start a new podcast together. Might be an opening pretty soon. Is 31 network lead for T1, and playing
That wasn't
60
too
seconds
bad.
on the deck.
That skewer range, no buyback. So absurd. Like you're expecting that skewer to stop any now, and it just keeps going.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like when you talk about Elder Titan, I feel like Magnus feels like the hero of the tournament right now in a lot of ways.
He's doing very
Damage being done by T1. Aegis will come.
That was just not even close. T1 basically. It's 10 minutes, but after that, it was just all T1. If you're drafting like this and you give the enemy team Magnus and you give them like this strong team fight and a favorable mid matchup, you have to play around Limp more. Like this needs to go faster, or you need to take a different approach to the draft entirely where you feel confident just taking time for yourself. It was just T1 dictating everything in that game and just doesn't cut it. You need to challenge them. You need to get... This is what's most important at this level of play. Don't let the enemy team be comfortable, right? And they were just comfortable the whole time. T1 just looked in their element the whole game.
Well, still, just one